Hello everyone, this is part 51 of What If Naruto Passed the Genin test, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me. Even when the clock sounded 1 in the morning, the streets of Suna, especially those around the western side of town and Gaara's palace, were buzzing with activity. The tall lampposts lining the roads and walkways were shining brightly, lighting up the city. The villagers, an occasional ninja, beneath those lights were hurriedly carrying boxes and crates from homes down the road, unloading carts of sealed containers, and compelling camel-driven carts in a continuous line of activity towards Gaara's palace. At the base of the palace was a small army of ninja divided up into groups of 2 or 3. Each was directing the river of traffic and people towards arches set in the side of the palace, arches that lead into tunnels that sloped downwards and ran at a mild incline under the palace. In the center of it all was Sakura, flitting about like a wren in a tree from one group of directing ninja to another, giving orders, helping to decide who should go where, and generally doing what she could to make things move smoothly, or as smoothly as the mass evacuation of a large city could go at least. Remember, Sakura shouted above the din of the undulating crowd in her usual, commanding voice. Take only what you need to survive. She raised her voice even higher to send the message as far as she could, jumping up onto a cart that had stopped in the center of the road. Don't bring any furniture or personal effects. Bring food and water in sealed containers. Any food and drink is our priority. If you have anything you can't carry with you, then find an empty cart or leave it behind. Sakura watched as everyone around her, thousands of people, continued on towards the palace, jostling and pushing to get through the crowds. Everyone was carrying something, everyone had at least a backpack or a purse or some bag of belongings in their arms. Some people were carrying as much as the camels Gaara had brought up to help alleviate the loads of the citizenry. The pink-haired Kunoichi sighed and jumped from the cart. She sat down in the sand, resting her back against a box, and took a deep breath. She knew that there was no way she could handle all of the administrative and logistical duties that accompanied overseeing an operation this large. It had been like receiving the death penalty when Gaara had approached her and asked Sakura to help oversee all of the logistics involved with the retreat. She had taken her responsibility in good graces, however, knowing that it would be better for everyone if she helped, and the work to be done, directing people where to go, what to take, and how to behave, was not actually very complicated. The daunting aspect of things was the simple fact that there were so many people and so few ninja to keep everything running smoothly. And this isn't even the hard part, Sakura mumbled to herself when she heard the bell strike 2. Right now was only the phase of moving all of the supplies down into the main tunnel beneath the city, a tunnel nearly 200 meters wide and supported by a system of arches and vaults. Once this phase was complete, then it would come time to transport all of the supplies down that tunnel as efficiently as possible, down the way to the fort on the other end of the route and from there to the docks. This sucks, she said, almost laughing, as laughing was the only thing she could think to do that wasn't crying. This genuinely and totally sucks. Something wrong. Sakura visibly jumped as someone, in this case Shikamaru, poked his head around one of the corners of the crate Sakura rested against. Geez, said the Kunoichi, taking a breath to steady herself as her pulse pounded in her ears. Don't do that, shouldn't you be asleep by now or something? Shikamaru grinned a little and stepped fully away from the box. His face fell back to its default calm quickly though. Not with all the work that needs to be done, he said as he looked around. We've got a long road ahead. Sakura nodded, not sure what to say that hadn't already been said 1,000 times. And I wanted to check up on you, continued Shikamaru. You looked rattled earlier and I was worried. Thanks, said Sakura after a moment's pause. I'm fine though. Fine never means anything good, said Shikamaru. And I'll listen if you need to talk. Fine, said Sakura, trying not to sound rude. I'm alright then. Shikamaru didn't answer immediately. He let her sit in the sand and just waited as she looked between him and the activity, humming all around a few times. Fine, reiterated the Kunoichi. I said I'm fine, it's just that there's a lot of stuff to deal with right now. Anything I can do to help? asked Shikamaru, crossing his arms and showing no signs of leaving. Sakura sighed. Not really, she muttered. For the most part everything is going as well as it can. We're short on people to direct the flow of traffic, and of course there's the problem of things getting so backed up so fast, but there's nothing we can do about that, just the nature of the beast. Shikamaru took a deep breath and stretched, arching his back a bit and pushing his hands up above his head. Well, he said casually, I offered to go out on patrol for Gara-sama, but he said that with he tapped his eye patch and trailed off for a second. He said I should probably take it easy. So if it's just grunt work you need help with, I'd be happy to. Excuse me. Both Sakura and Shikamaru looked up surprised. Suddenly the crowd working around them wasn't the only distraction in their vicinity. Would either of you be able to arrange for me to meet with the Kazekage? Said the tall man in the black cloak. Sakura stammered, staring at the man's featureless white mask which concealed his features uncannily. That depends on what you need to see him for, she said, recovering. You've caught us at a bit of a busy time. Who are you exactly? A member of Iwa's elite assassination squad. The man in the mask didn't move, but continued in his quiet and oily tone, I must speak with the Kazekage. I have important information about the Crane's troop movements and their plans to attack Suna. SC. Naruto was DRD over Ino, both glimmering with perspiration in the soft light from the window. He laid there, his face buried in the crook of her N and his elbows on either side of her BS with his hands underneath Ino's back. He neither spoke nor shifted to move away. As though she were a vice, Ino's legs wrapped tightly around Naruto's lower back, refusing to let him go as her chest rose and fell in rolling breaths. Ino's arms were around Naruto's shoulders and she ran her hands autonomously over his back as she whispered his name to him and to herself over and over. Still Naruto rocked back and forward, the pulsing high making the world spin and ring. He turned his head more into her N and kissed her again, savoring every sensation and touch. Ino leaned her head back, not opening her eyes, and absorbed it all as they lay in the center of the blanket-less bed. My God, Naruto, Ino whispered, turning her face and kissing the top of his head. Naruto took a huffing breath and leaned back only enough to see her face to face. He was trembling but wore the widest grin. So, he said in a shaking voice, round RWO. Ino reached up and put her hands on the back of his head, pulling him down and pressing her lips against his with all the energy she could muster. She kissed him and tugged on his lower lip as she squeezed him tighter with her legs, feeling his muscles move with untold strength as he breathed and held himself steady. I don't think you realize, she whispered right next to his ear, just what kind of position you've gotten yourself into now. A damn good one, said Naruto. Ino laughed one exhausted laugh and let herself relax back a bit, but pulled Naruto down a little closer to her. Maybe for me, she said, G-sping his shoulders and massaging him a bit. You'd better not let me get too used to this or you'll never get a moment's rest. Naruto let himself down onto his side beside her, leaning up on one elbow to look at her and grinned. Do you think I'm not enjoying myself or something? Nope, Ino chirped. I know you're having a good time, I just don't think that you could be having anywhere near as much fun as me. Well, said Naruto, making a point to be obvious about looking her over, if that's the case I might be willing to go again if you ask really nicely. Ino smirked and turned on him, pushing Naruto onto his back. He didn't think to resist as she lifted one leg and straddled him, leaning over him and pinning his hands to the bed. Believe me, she cooed, if you'll wait right here and give me a few minutes to recuperate, I'll give you a rematch and a round 3 if you'd like. Where do you think you're going? Naruto asked playfully as Ino rolled off the bed and strutted towards the door set in the wall perpendicular to the exit. Bathroom, said the kunoichi, making a point to exaggerate the rocking in her hips as she moved and turned to look at Naruto. Don't worry now, I'll be right back. She grinned and opened the door, behind which Naruto saw a bathroom equipped with a toilet and a stand-up shower. Oh. Naruto mumbled as Ino shut the door behind her. I hadn't noticed that before. Naruto leaned back and crossed his arms behind his head. Wow, he sighed contentedly. I didn't know life could be this sweet. He rolled to one side and reached over the edge of the bed, grabbing at the comforter, which had been catapulted off the bed some time ago, and pulled it back up onto the mattress and over to cover himself. Several minutes passed which Naruto took to close his eyes and relax. Suddenly he felt very tired. It wasn't an exhausted kind of fatigue, but more of an almost euphoric relaxation. I feel like I could take a nap and not wake up for days, he thought to himself. Ino's not the only one who will need to watch out for this becoming an addiction. Naruto grimaced as he heard someone knock on the chamber door. Oh please not now, he mentally gsaid. Why now? Naruto. Sasuke's voice came through the door just as clearly as though he were already in the room. Naruto, sorry, but we need to talk. With a sigh, a discontented one, Naruto got to his feet and wrapped one of the sheets around his waist, walking across the warm sandy room to the door. He reached out and tugged on the handle. Sorry about the interruption, said Sasuke, trying to look at Naruto and not let his eyes wander about the room. Gaara is entertaining a ninja from Iwa and wanted you to be there. Don't worry about it, Sasuke, Iwa, said Naruto quizzically. Are they still alive or is this ninja a survivor? Don't know, said Sasuke, almost bitterly. The meeting is private, even Sakura wasn't allowed, and Gaara just asked me to come and get you. They're meeting in Gaara's office. It's on the floor above this one. Naruto sighed and looked towards the closed bathroom door. How urgent is it? Sasuke followed Naruto's glance to the door and took a step back. He reached for the door's handle and began to pull the door closed. I'll wait out here. Just let me know when you're ready and I'll show you where it is. Thanks, said Naruto as Sasuke closed the door. Just as the door's mechanism clicked closed, the bathroom door opened and Naruto turned to see Ino stepping over the threshold. He smiled at her and she returned the gesture. Ino stopped a few steps away from him and crossed her arms in front of her chest, shifting most of her weight onto one leg. I'd ask what was on your mind, said Naruto, but I think I already have a pretty good idea. Ino grinned. Good guess. Not a guess, said Naruto, stepping back and sitting on the bed. Ino paused for a moment, biting her lip. That was Sasuke at the door, wasn't it? She asked. Naruto sighed and looked at the ground. Yep, he nodded. Gaara is having some kind of secret meeting and wants me there. He wouldn't even let Sasuke or Sakura in to know what was going on. Oh, said Ino, obviously more than a little deflated. Well, I guess the world isn't going to save itself, she forced a convincing smile. You want to know what I think of the world? Naruto asked, cynicism thinly veiled in his tone. You probably have more good to say about it than I do, said Ino. But that doesn't change the fact that it needs you. She walked to the side of the bed and the chest of drawers behind Naruto and pulled open one of the drawers. Wow, she whispered. Look at this. Naruto turned around and watched as Ino pulled a long red cloak from the bin. Perfectly folded, the crimson cloth unfurled like a cascading waterfall and drd down nearly to her feet as Ino held it up to see. This is pretty amazing, she continued, looking over the cloak from the shoulder down to the base where white flames danced around the cuffs of the cloth. This must have been custom made, said Ino, setting the cloak across chair next to the dresser. What else is in there? Asked Naruto, standing up and walking around the bed. That looks like a cloak my father would have worn during his days as Hokage, Naruto thought, thinking of the white robes with red flames which the fourth Hokage had made his standard attire. Hit the lights for me, will you? Asked Ino as she pulled an off-white shirt from the drawer and laid it across the seat. Naruto got up and walked over to the door and flipped the light switch, making both him and Ino wince as the bright fluorescence sprung to life. Is that silk? He asked, nodding to the shirt that he could now see flickered subtly in the light. Definitely, said Ino. The cloak is leather but lined with silk. This is quality stuff, Naruto. She then pulled a pair of dark pants from the drawer and held them up. These are spun wool, I think, but they're lined with the same material as the cloak. Gaara really went all out. Naruto toned as he threw the sheet around his waist on the bed and held out his hand for the pants. May I? I don't think so, said Ino playfully, holding the pants back and giving Naruto the once-over. I think I like you better this way. Naruto sighed with feigned exasperation, still waiting with his hand held at chest level. You might, but I'm not sure everyone else would appreciate it as much. HMPH, Ino grunted, the savages must have no taste. She tossed the pants into Naruto's GS. Thanks, he said, bending at the knee to slide the pants up to his waist. He pulled on the leather belt which had already been threaded through the loops sewn into the waistline. I wonder how expensive these were, he mused, leaving the leather strap, which was already threaded through the steel buckle, unfastened. Probably about as much as we'd get paid for an S-ranked mission, said Ino, stepping up behind Naruto with the shirt in her hands. Now, put your hands up. I don't have any money if that's what you're after, said the blonde ninja, raising his hands above his head. I know, said Ino, reaching up, almost needing to stand on the tips of her toes to get the shirt over his hands. She pulled the fabric down over his head and straightened it out after the V-shaped collar fell below his jaw. You've got something else that I want though. Naruto grinned as she tucked the shirt into the top of his pants. Oh, he probed, what would that be if you don't mind my asking? Let's think, said the kunoichi. Whoa. Naruto jumped in surprise as Ino's hands jumped farther down the front of his pants. Without another word, she fastened Naruto's belt and took a step back. Ino pursed her lips, picking up the heavy cloak and sliding the sleeve up Naruto's arm and over his shoulder. If you even think about getting me started, I'm going to wrest these clothes right back off you, and after all the trouble I'm going to try keep you in them, that might not be good. Well, we couldn't have that, could we? Said Naruto, sliding on the rest of the cloak and straightening himself up. Not yet anyway, Ino cooed, embracing Naruto from behind. Once you get back though, it's no holds barred. Naruto grinned, grabbed the sheet off the bed's headboard and turned in Ino's GS. I think we both know how that's going to end, he said as he brought the sheet behind her and wrapped her in it. She let go so he could bundle her up completely, then leaned in as he in turn hugged her to him. Hurry back, she said as he let go and walked around the bed to the door. You know me, said Naruto as he set his hand on the handle and began tugging the door open. He hit the switch as he left, leaving Ino in the muted light from the street lamps beneath the window. That's my point, said Ino quietly, sitting on the edge of the bed. Naruto stepped out into the dimly lit hall, the first time he'd been out of his room since waking up, and the first thing he noticed was the color of the walls. It was the same color as the floor, which was the same color as the ceiling, which was the same color as every other structure he'd seen in Suna thus far. I know we're in the desert, Naruto groaned mentally, but does everything have to be the exact same color and texture? I'd forgotten how drab everything was here, he thought, already missing Konoha's lush and vibrant palette of greens, oranges, and blues. Sasuke stood with his back to one wall and his arms crossed in front of his chest. He had discarded the shirt and pants he'd worn to Suna and traded them in for a somewhat more appropriate Anbu jumpsuit, though his uniform was embroidered with the Wind Country's motif. I like the get-up, said Naruto, catching the Uchiha's attention and gesturing to the jumpsuit. Likewise, Sasuke acknowledged, pushing himself up straight and dropping his hands to his side. I thought getting a bunch of free clothes was a good deal, but it looks like I got the shaft, he grinned. You look just like a genuine Hokage should, even if you were missing the forehead protector. Yeah, said Naruto, but I'm not so sure any of us are really ninjas of Konoha anymore. At this point I think we're Ronin, masterless warriors, at best. Not masterless, said Sasuke. We'll always have a master, just not a village now. I guess this makes us ninja of Naruto, he said, grinning. Don't even joke about that, said Naruto, an almost bitter edge in his tone. Being anyone's master or Hokage has lost its appeal to me. Now, you were going to show me to Gaara, I think. Yeah, said Sasuke, turning down the hall as Naruto mirrored and followed him. The stairs are this way. Gaara asked that we not use the elevators, but it's only one floor up. Think you can manage that? What's gotten you so chipper all of a sudden? Naruto asked, only slightly cynically as he stepped up to walk beside Sasuke. Nothing in particular, said the Uchiha as they pair of ninja passed by several more doors before coming to the end of the hall and stopping in front of a large set of double doors. But I was thinking about a few things and it occurred to me that, with everything that's going on, the last thing we need is for everyone to mope around and complain about how bad everything is, so I'm not going to. Naruto grinned as Sasuke pushed the big door open and they stepped out into a simple concrete stairwell. I'd like to know how you do that, said Naruto as they began to climb the wide steps. You and Ino both just decide to be better people and suddenly you are. The rest of us mortals actually have to work at it, you know. Sasuke chuckled once and turned onto a landing, stopping where he stood. Naruto stopped beside him and they both paused for a moment. There were no windows in the stairwell, leaving the task of lighting the large structure to a single light bulb hanging above the landing on which the two ninjas stood. It would have been far too dark for anyone but a ninja to see in the gloom, and even Naruto's sharpened eyes had to widen to properly make out each step. "You're a good person, Naruto," said Sasuke. "Don't let anyone tell you differently. Everybody f's up and falls off the wagon at some point in their life, but the trick is to get back up and dust yourself off without letting yourself turn into a whining infant. I had to learn that while I was under Orochimaru's control." "What do you mean?" asked Naruto. Sasuke took a breath, objectivity ostensibly his aim. "I was under the cursed seal's influence. I had no say in whether or not I could obey Orochimaru, and at first, you know how it goes, you get all angsty about it and let the self-pity get in the way of every thought, but it's not worth it, Naruto. It really isn't, and I don't want you thinking that you're defined by what you did." Naruto paused and stared at the featureless concrete wall. "Thanks, I think," he said. "I'm curious though, what defines us if not what we do?" "That's not what I said," Sasuke prompted. "I said it's not what we did. We're defined by what we do, now in the present, not what we did in the past. I've been thinking a lot, and if we're all defined by what we've done, then none of us are good people. We need life from minute to minute being the best we can be, and that's the best we can do." "Since when did you take up philosophy?" asked Naruto, no malice in his voice. "It's not philosophy," Sasuke said. "It's just common sense that there's no point in moping about the past when there's nothing that can be done to change it. The only thing you can change is yourself, and it's completely up to you who you are and what you become. No one has any say in who you are but you, because you have complete control over what you do and it's what you do that defines you." Naruto waited for a moment, mulling over what Sasuke had said while the Uchiha waited patiently for Naruto to respond or resume walking. Naruto slipped his hands into his new pants pockets and only then realized just how deep said pockets were. He could slide his forearm in almost halfway to his elbow. "Thanks," said Naruto, not exactly sure what he should say. "I'm not entirely sure I buy it, but thanks. I appreciate what you're trying to do. I don't want you to find yourself where I was 2 years ago," said Sasuke, bitter, angry with the world, self-damning, and jaded. "You think that's where I'm headed?" Naruto asked, his tone indistinct. Sasuke paused and tried to gauge Naruto's mood and position. "I'm not saying that's where you're going. I just want you to know that everyone here is completely on your side and we're here to support you, but also that you need to support yourself." A moment passed and Naruto took a deep and steez breath. "Thanks Sasuke," he said. "I appreciate it." "Anytime," said Sasuke, resuming their march up the stairs. "You know," said the Uchiha as he opened the doors to the next floor up for Naruto, "I managed to hold your sisters off for you while you and Ino were sharing a moment, but I don't think that once we get to Gaara's office that you can count on me to protect you from them." Naruto grinned as they stepped into the hall beyond the big double door. "I was a little curious as to where they were after I'd heard they were all anxious to see me." Sasuke mirrored Naruto and let a small grin spread across his face. "I told Kurena as you were waking up that you and Ino would probably want some private time once Gaara was done with you and she got Alicia and Kurena to leave you alone for a bit. As terrible of me as this may be," said Naruto, "I'm sort of thankful for that, though now I really would like to see them. They're in Gaara's reception room. I managed to convince them that you were safe enough in Suna to forego their constant vigilance. That and I'll bet Kurena liked the idea of getting to spend some time with you," said Naruto playfully. Sasuke's demeanor suddenly became very much like that of a dog walked in on with his mouth full of the Christmas ham. "I wouldn't know anything about what you're talking about," said the Uchiha, swallowing his words as quickly as he said them. "You noticed that?" Naruto grinned. "I thought the two of you looked good together on the way here." "She's a smart girl, and she's easy to talk to," Sasuke said as the pair of ninjas stopped in front of a plain wooden door in the otherwise featureless sandstone wall. "Even if she is a few years older than me." "Hey," said Naruto, raising his hands as if to surrender. "It's quite a triumph for a guy to say he's ensnared the heart of a woman older than himself. Likewise, I hear that it's looked upon as a major accomplishment among women for one of the fairer to win the attention of a younger man. It's not something I'd be able to do." Sasuke grinned. "I should hope you're not trying to win the attention of a younger man." Both ninja had a fair laugh at that as Sasuke opened the door into the Kazekige's reception room and ushered Naruto inside. Immediately Trina and Alicia leapt up from their places on a comfortable-looking couch pressed against the opposite wall. Naruto, Alicia blurted, her eyes seeming to literally light up as Naruto walked into the room. You're all right. Naruto grinned as the bubbliest of the three sisters rushed forward and threw her arms around him in an unexpected but very welcome bear hug. You act like you didn't think I'd be fine, he answered with a grin, hugging her back, then turning to Trina as Alicia stepped back to give him some space. You should all know me better than that. I kept telling them both you were fine, said Karena from her place in the chair by the couch. The brunette Kunoiki smiled welcomingly. It's good to see you and Bout though. We were all worried. Trina nodded and sat back down on the couch. Fighting off a yawn she looked between Naruto and Sasuke. Now that you're back in the game though, we can finally get this show on the road and come up with something. Naruto glanced between the sisters, then at Sasuke who had taken a seat behind the receptionist's empty desk, and Sakura, who was sitting quietly and almost unnoticed in the corner of the room opposite Sasuke. I think, said the blonde ninja as Sakura looked up and met his eye with a small smile, that people a lot smarter than me already have. Sakura sighed and opened her mouth to say something, but quickly cut herself off as the door to Gaara's private office opened and the Kazekage himself stood in the entrance, holding the handle to the heavy, metal-lined slab of wood. Naruto-kun, said Gaara in his uniform tone. Please, if I may have a moment. Naruto nodded and looked past Gaara into his office where a tall ninja, wearing only a black, ankle-length cloak and an unremarkable white mask waited inside the confines of the private room. There is much we need to discuss, confidentially. SC. An army? Asked Naruto, standing with his back to the closed door of Gaara's private office. How many are we talking about? The office was spacious, open with only a very little furniture, Gaara's slim desk, 2 chairs opposite the desk, and some filing equipment, but the atmosphere of the room was dark and clustered, a mood not helped by the windowless walls and the dim lighting provided by Gaara's desk lamp. Gaara sat at his desk with his elbows resting on the surface and his hands crossed, resting against his jaw. Naruto was at the rear of the room with his arms folded in front of his chest, and between them was their strange guest, a tall ninja with wide shoulders. He was garbed in a jet and undistinguished cloak, wearing a mask whose featurelessness rivaled that of his cloak. Between 4,000 and 5,000 soldiers, said the strange ninja in an oily voice, not moving. I can't be sure, but I counted at least 2 full regiments, maybe more. Additionally, it's not only ninja we have to worry about, but samurai, Ashigara spear devils, mercenaries from the Bear Country, and warrior priests from the islands east of the Water Country. It would seem that our common enemies have been marshalling this army for years. Gaara sighed. Harbin, how soon will they be here? Asked the Kazekage flatly. They were just leaving the Rain Village when I spotted them on patrol. As I saw it, they were moving south, probably to try and sneak in from the bridges in the canyons to the east. Given that they're moving as one unit, I'd assume it will be no more than 3 days before they get here. If they split up into smaller groups, they could be here by tomorrow afternoon. Naruto breathed quietly. That's the good news, said Harbin. Well, what's the bad news? Asked Gaara. Uchiha Itachi is at the head of the column. His lieutenant is a ninja named Kisame. Naruto repeated, turning to face Gaara. This is a disaster. Gaara, we're not ready. We're nowhere near ready. Gaara glanced calmly between Naruto and the ninja who had introduced himself as Harbin. He paused for a moment and took a deep breath. Naruto, you've encountered Itachi before, haven't you? What can we expect from him? What's there to say? Naruto shrugged. Frankly, I don't think I'd be able to beat him if it were a one-on-one fight. When Itachi came to Konoha years ago, Jiraiya managed to drive him off, but then again, given all the power Jiraiya was hiding from everyone, even me, I'm not really surprised. Naruto's chest tightened a little. Jiraiya was an exceptional ninja, said Harbin. In Iwa's bingo book he was listed as the greatest threat Konoha posed to our village. We suspected he was capable of opening all 8 celestial gates. Naruto took a deep breath. I think that's how he beat the 4th when we attacked Oto. That might explain it then, said Harbin. Opening all 8 of the gates unleashes all of the energy stored in the mass one's body. The user's body begins to literally convert its mass into pure energy in a massive subatomic reaction using chakra as a catalyst, but the reaction once begun is irreversible until the supply of chakra is cut off. If Itachi, who is a cowardly thing at heart according to our bingo book, knew of Jiraiya's abilities, he would never think to engage him directly. At the risk of sounding cold, said Gaara, do we know of anyone else among us who can open all 8 gates? Perhaps we could use them as a weapon to take out Itachi and sow confusion among his ranks. Naruto shook his head. No, he said. Mito Guy could open 7, but he SD in the Crane's betrayal. Rock Lee could open at least 5, but he was killed in the war with Oto. I don't know of any clan who actively train their members to use the celestial gates. I suppose not many people are apt to S themselves for a greater cause, said Harbin, an edge of sarcasm in his voice. May I make a suggestion for dealing with this threat? Of course, said Gaara. What do you have in mind? You've informed me that you're planning to evacuate your entire population to the coast. Some hundreds of leagues away, then set sail for the islands a week's sail from the beaches, which you hope might be the barrier islands of some continent which might support your numbers. There are numerous mights and maybes in there, and if it turns out that there is no other continent, then you'll have nowhere to go but back here, and in the time you've spent looking for a new home, Akatsuki will have established an insurmountable hold on the land. There's not exactly much we can do about that, said Naruto. We don't have the numbers to stand up to them directly. Then do it indirectly, said Harbin. I would advise sending your non-combatants out to sea, yes, but only a day or 2 from land. Meanwhile you leave the bulk of your fighting forces here to handle Akatsuki and the Crane. What you're both overlooking is that Akatsuki has an army, but that any army is only as strong as the generals leading it. It seems most likely that Akatsuki, a relatively small organization of powerful ninja, would be the brains behind the Crane's numbers. Cut off the head of the snake, and their armies will be leaderless and count for nothing. We've already thought of using guerrilla tactics, said Gaara. The only problem with that method is the lack of information. We have no way of getting at just the generals. We don't know how many ninja Akatsuki has. The leaders are hidden behind the Crane's sheer numbers. Then engage their armies, said Harbin. Draw out the generals and then K them. We don't have the numbers, Naruto reminded them. Iwa does, said Harbin. Both Naruto and Gaara stared at the visitor for a moment and waited for him to continue as a charged air began to invade the early morning atmosphere of the room. Harbin crossed his arms and turned 90 degrees to face both leaders. Iwa hasn't yet fallen to the Crane. Or at least they were still standing 2 days ago, Harbin said quietly. Given the circumstances, I think they'd be more than willing to put off their old and long hostilities with both of you to unite against the greater threat posed by Akatsuki and the Crane. Naruto broke in, his voice a little stronger. How much support could we expect from Iwa? My village has been withdrawn for a reason these past few years. After our war with the Fire Country, our power had been destroyed. However, we began recruiting heavily from the surrounding lands, building an army which could resist Konoha if they came at us again. Our last military census revealed that Iwa has 5,000 soldiers on alert at any given time, with another 2,500 in reserve and a permanent garrison of 500. We're at the ready with more than 200 ninja acting as officers and generals. Naruto gaped at the news and Gaara's eyes widened noticeably. Both ninjas smiled simultaneously and looked between one another. Harbin, said Naruto, can we count on your support in this, if we choose to openly resist Akatsuki, I mean? Haven't I already made it clear I mean to help? Asked the ninja in the mask. I'm sorry, but I couldn't wait for your permission in this, sir. I've already dispatched word to Iwa via Hawk of Suna's plight. You should have their response sometime today, though I will personally guarantee their support. How do you know? Asked Naruto. Suddenly the blonde ninja felt as though he was certain Harbin was smiling beneath his mask. He didn't know why, but the Uzumaki knew he had somehow struck the ninja's humor. I've had the ears of Iwa's cages since before either of you were born, said Harbin. They trust me less only than their own minds. Don't take my word for it though, wait until the cage's messengers arrive and that will confirm it all. Gaara paused and thought for a moment as both he and Naruto considered the implications of the guest's news. All right, said the Kazekage, we'll wait for one more day for word from Iwa. If no news comes, then we'll carry on as we are now and retreat. If however it turns out that you're right and Iwa has the strength to resist Akatsuki and the desire to help us, then we will bring everything we have to bear against Akatsuki and the crane. Naruto grinned widely. Maybe we really can do this, he mentally cheered. This is it, one last battle and then, one way or another, all of the fighting will finally be over. This will be it, the last push. Oh, and if I may make one more suggestion, said Harbin politely. You have my permission to speak openly, said the Kazekage. Likewise, said Naruto. I would like to track Akatsuki's and the crane's movements. I have a general idea of where they are and where they will move, but we have no certain idea of where they are for sure. I'd like to take one ninja of yours, someone strong and whom I can count on, out on patrol to map the enemy's moves. Naruto nodded. That's a good idea, said the Uzumaki. I'll accompany him myself. SC. Harbin stood out on one of the many balconies jutting out from the highest level of Gaara's palace. He rested his hands on the banister and looked out over the city through his featureless mask. It was nearly 3 in the morning and the man stood stiller than a statue, completely unmoving and seeming not even to breathe. With no apparent call from the ninja 10 birds, hawks the color of drying blood appeared on the railing beside him. The raptors arrived without any puffs of smoke or a fluttering of leaves or sand. They simply appeared out of nothing and looked around with their liquid eyes till each one found their master. Harbin took a deep breath and let it out, filling the silence with the quiet hissing. Each hawk had a small scroll already strapped around its leg. Go, said the ninja, and instantly each bird took wing and sailed into the sky, propelled by more than their muscles to speeds unthinkable for a bird. Harbin watched as each hawk but one moved in a different direction of north or east. The singular hawk who moved to the west seemed the slowest of them all, still lingering on the horizon even as all of the others disappeared over the edge of the world. So close, said Harbin. It's all up to Naruto now. Everyone else already has or is soon to reach the climax of their role. I can only hope you're up to your tasks, my one gamble. X. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.